Alright, in this video we are going to revisit the text global variable. I'm doing this to break it down a little bit more for people who are first starting with KLWP. The text global variable is something that I use in all of my wallpapers now, and by the end of this video hopefully you will realize how you can alternate or change almost just about anything inside of KLWP. And I'm going to do it with two things. I'm going to do some alternating groups, which I've already done in a previous video, but I do want to break this down a little bit more for the beginners step by step. And then I'm also going to use a text global variable for some colors. Let me show you what I'm talking about over here on the main screen of the cell phone. So text global variables. I have text global variables operating all these tabs that are sliding in and out. Notice how, one's going away, another one's showing up, and this is just like the video I've already done on the text global variable, but it's a little bit more advanced too because, if I'm on battery and I want to come back down here to my notifications, it's going to slide out all these other pieces to kind of keep it uniform, whereas if I want to go up here to music, it slides down all the things beneath it. So this does require a little bit more coding, but that's one text global variable. Another text global variable, for example, my RSS feeds, the arrows down here at the bottom, I can go back and forth through my RSS feeds. As you can see, they are changing. That is a text global variable. And then on every single little page, I have these little buttons where I can change my colors. So as you can see, the colors are changing, and these actually change independent of each other depending on what tab I slide out. Each one of these little buttons operate on a different text global variable. So these are changing colors just like, for calendar, I can change my colors here, but these are also all, I hate when I do that, these are all text global variables. Now, every once in a while you're going to see this screen pop up, and it's because I'm recording on my computer and my phone doesn't communicate very well with the computer in regards to my little tabs. So just have to bear with me on that. So when you see this screen pop up right here, just ignore it. I'm going to click back, and it's only because that's a computer cell phone issue. That has nothing to do with KLWP. Alright, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. So inside of KLWP, again, this is geared more towards beginners, starting from scratch with a blank slate. So let's create a text global variable. We're going to do some alternating groups. So over here under globals, let's add a text global variable, and you can call it whatever you want. I recommend using something rather short because when you go to do your coding, you're going to have to use that word, and the more you type in for this name, the more you're going to have to type in over here for this stuff. And I'm just going to, and even though it's a text global variable, I like to use numbers because it's easy to type a number in, like that 1 and 1. You can give it a weird name. You can call it reset, but whenever you need to use this for coding, you're going to have to type that in. So I like to think of 0 as reset. You can use whatever you want. So step 1 done. We've created it. I've talked about, shortening the names up here. Underneath items, let's start creating our groups. Now I'm just going to do 3 for the sake of this to speed things up. Alright, and I'm going to call this overlap group 1. You don't have to rename these, but it's good to keep things organized. Inside of here, let's put a shape, whatever shape you want. Of course, you don't have to be doing this, but alright, so I'm going to do a square. Also inside of here, let's add some text, and this text you can have it say whatever you want. So this is where you can put information for your first group. Alright, now you can't see any of that stuff because the paint is probably white, which it is, so let's change the color, and now we can see it. Let's make this look a little bit nicer. Alright, that's good enough. So there's our first group, nothing fancy. Again, this is for demonstration purposes. Alright, now I'm going to take this one, and we've created a group. I haven't done groups yet, but I'm going to go ahead and apply an animation to this group. So under overlap group 1, animation, and let's apply an animation. So plus, we want to animate based on reacting on a formula. And the formula needs to be something along these lines. Now, I'm going to do F and B for this video. I know I got a 1 and a 0 down here. These can be, well, this is a totally different formula, but F and B. F is going to move the animation forward. B is going to move the animation back. So if that global variable, that text global variable tab, if it's equal to 1, our animation is going to move forward. If that global variable tab is not 1, it's going to move back. So if it's 1, it moves forward. If it's not 1, it's going to move back. I'm going to copy that right into, see if this is going to work. Of course not. Let's see if that works. Bingo, good. So remember, I set that global variable tab to 0, so it's going to spit out this B. And if you read this, it's either going to move the animation forward, it can move the animation backwards, or we can reset it. I oftentimes use a forward and a backward. I don't reset, but I mean, you can tinker around with this and see what you like. So there's our animation. What do we want this thing to do? I want it to fade in. Okay, so right now that just knocked that out, because only when this global variable tab is equal to 1 is it going to fade in. Otherwise, it's going to go backwards and fade back out. So we don't see it right now. No big deal. Now, just to show you this, I mean, we're in the middle of doing this thing. So remember, if that global variable is equal to 1, we should have it fade in. When it's not 1, it should fade out or go backwards. So let me go back and show you this. Let's go back into globals. I'm going to look at the tab, and I'm going to rename this to 1. So now I'm meeting the condition. If the global variable tab is equal to 1, which I'm about to make it 1, then we should see this thing fade in. So if I check it, boom, see how it fades in? If it's not 1, if it's anything else, if it's that, I don't care what it is. If it's anything other than 1, it's going to fade back out. So watch what happens when I check this. Bam, it fades back out. So it can be whatever it wants it to be. So I'm going to go back to 0 again. 0, I think of reset. So now it's not there, because it shouldn't be. It should fade back out. Now, let me copy this. I'm copying that group because I'm going to create a few groups. So this is overlap group number 2. All right, and I'll tell you what. We've got everything the same in here. Let me change the shape just for the heck of it. That way we can see different things happening. I'm going to pick a circle. Make this one a little bit bigger. Okay. So I've created the group. I'll change my information. I'll say for the second group, just so we can see a difference between each one as we see these things animating. Again, this is where you could be putting your weather and all that stuff. Now we're not seeing anything up here, and the reason why is because I copied this group. So this group has that same exact animation. But maybe you're starting to see a pattern even after I've only done one thing. Since this is my second group, so if my global variable tab is equal to 2 now, I don't want to see this unless my text global variable is equal to 2. I want it to move forward or move in, otherwise I want it to move backwards. Now, that was the same thing as what I had from the first one, except I've changed the global variable to 2 instead of 1. So remember, this group is a circle, and it should say something about this is where you can put information for your second group. Well, let's go over here and check this out. My tab right now is 0, so it's moved backwards. Let's change that global variable to 2, because remember, for this second group we said if the global variable is equal to 2, it should show up, it should fade in. And as you can see, we do have the circle versus that first one. Let's go back and change this to 1. The circle is going to go away and it's going to come back with that square. See that? This is where you can put information for your first group. My global tab's 1. It's kind of a universal way of remembering all these things. And if I come in here and change it to 2, it's going to get rid of the square, pop up the circle. So the square went away, there's a circle. This is where you can put information for your second group. I tell you what, we're going to do one more. I'll copy and paste this. So right now I have the exact same group. I'm going to call this overlap group number 3. And let's change this shape to, what do we want to do? Let's do a hexagon. And I can't really see much of the hexagon. How about a triangle? Whoa. Alright. That should be good. Alright, our animation. Since this is our third, whoops, let me go back and change the text so we can clearly see that these are three different things. This is where we can do it for our third group. And now let's go over to animation. So we want to animate this group. And let's do this one where it does it if the global variable tab is equal to 3. So let's save that. And now we should be able to go back and change back inside our globals. Let's change this to 3 and see what it looks like. There's our triangle. This is where you can put information for your third group. So we got these three things alternating. Now how do we make these three things alternate? This is where we got to create our buttons. Now I'm going to be real quick with this, or try to be at least. Let's create an I'm just going to create it, yeah. Let's do overlap group, call it buttons, whatever you want to call it. Doc, I think, is what I use in the overlap group, buttons. Alright, let's apply button. So let's do a shape. And let's make this a hexagon. Now, I mean, just for the sake of this, let me position this entire overlap group buttons. Let's put it at the bottom. And this is nothing pretty. And this one is going to bring up, oh, I tell you what I could do. Let's do this instead. My first tab that I created, my first group, what shape did I use for that? I used a square. Okay, so let's use a square for this one. This is going to be pretty neat. Alright, and let's do, you can put text inside of this obviously as well, but for this shape I want to apply a touch to it. Now this is where this second formula is going to come into play. Let me explain what this formula means. I'm going to go ahead and copy it, and I want to touch, and I want to toggle a global switch, and the only global switch I have right now when I pick it is going to be tab, and we want to put a formula in this thing. Alright, so paste. Now, if the global variable tab is not equal to 1, then you want it to be 1. If it is 1, you want to make it 0. So it's going to like alternate between 1 and 0. That's what this exclamation point, not equal. So if our global variable tab is not 1, if it's 2, 3, or if it's XYZ, or if it's QRST, if it's not 1, it's going to automatically make it 1. But if it is 1, it's going to make it 0. So it's going to alternate between 1s and 0s when you touch this square that we put down here at the bottom. Alright? And I'm going to show you this too. I got a little bit extra piece to this video as well. Now let's copy and paste this. Now you might see, you don't even see the other shape that I just put down there, but I'm going to put a little bit of padding on it. That way we can clearly see, okay, this one right here is the one I'm about to tinker with right now. And let's change this one to a circle, because this is going to be my touch, my button to make the circle one pop up here on the screen. Okay, so under my circle I want to change its touch. Now since I've copied and pasted my square into here, but I've changed it to a circle, I'm still having that same formula. So I still want to toggle the same global switch. And for text, let's say if the global variable tab is not equal to 2, we want to make it 2. Otherwise we want to reset. Reset as in, basically this is 0. You're going to realize 0 is going to make everything disappear. Whatever's up there is going to make it disappear. I like to think of 0 as reset. And then let's do one more. I could have done a stack group here, but nonetheless. Alright, copy, paste. Let's apply a little bit more padding to this one now so we can see it over here on the end. Now this is ugly, I know, but you might want to center this. Nonetheless, let's apply touch to this circle. Now this was the triangle, so this is the triangle one right here. So this is going to be our third one. So if the global variable is not equal to 3, we want to make it equal to 3. And if it is equal to 3, we want to reset it back to 0. And now let me change that shape. This is this one right here. I want to change it to a triangle. Good enough. Alright, and now this is where I'm going to do the instructional purposes thing. I'm also going to include some extra text in here to show what value the current text global variable has. So nothing fancy here. I'm not going to add any overlap groups. I'm just going to add some text right off the bat. And this is where I can come in here and edit this. And I'm going to say the text global variable is currently, and now again I'm gonna have to use a little bit of copy and paste. Now I'm not copying all this over here. I just want to copy certain pieces like the dollar signs. I can't use my keyboard for some weird reason to type in like dollar signs. Like the shift key on my keyboard does not work inside my cell phone. I don't know why. But nonetheless, I'm just going to copy and paste this. So the text global variable is currently, and this just says B because this is jacked up, but once I delete a few things, it's currently going to be GV tab. There we go. So apparently, even though it says GV tab here, it says currently 3. Now if I start typing some funky stuff, notice that 3 went away. But by us using the coding correctly, whatever the GV tab is, in this case it must be 3, it's going to tell us what it's currently set to. And there's that text up there. So let's put this down at the bottom a little bit. Bottom, just so we can be able to read it. And let me back this up a little bit. And make it a little bit bigger. Alright, that's good. So, we've done our groups. Again, these groups, you can make them up. Please make them look a lot better than this and put more information in them. But nonetheless, we're going to be able to see all 3 of these separate. So let's save it and let's test it. Now, the text global variable is currently 3. Obviously, as you can see here, this is where you can put information for your third group. So let's suppose we want to see that circle one that we created up here. Let me touch the circle. Bam. This is where you can put information for your second group. And notice it says the text global variable is currently 2. This is going to show whatever that tab, that GV tab that we created in globals, it's going to show whatever value it currently has. So if I press this one, it should be 1. Remember, square was our first group, so this is going to change to a 1, and it's going to show our little square up here. There you go. Now I have all these fading in and out. You can change your animations. I'll show you that right here shortly. But what happens if I do it, if I touch the square again? Since 1 is showing, now it should set this to 0. Because this is where this touch comes in. If the GV tab is not equal to 1, well, right now GV tab is equal to 1. So it's not going to set it back to 1, it's going to reset it to 0. So watch this. Boom. Global variable tab 0, nothing's there. Now if I touch this one, well, let's go back and touch square. So this is the code that it's doing. If the tab is not currently equal to 1, it's going to make it equal to 1. So since we don't see a 1 here, if I touch this, it should set it equal to 1. It should fade in. Touch it again, it goes back to 0. So that's a back and forth between a 0 and a 1, as you can see changing here, and as you can see the shapes popping in and out. Now if I touch this one, it's going to run the code. If GV tab is not equal to 2, it's going to make it 2. Remember, I did change these to 2s a while ago. So touching my circle changes it to 2, pops it up. Touch it again, back to 0. Touch it again, back to 2. Touch it again, back to 0. And the same thing applies for the triangle. It's going to make it 3 or it's going to make it 0. But now, hopefully you can see that we can alternate back and forth between these things. Alright, so that is a little bit more explanation on how to do the one that I've already done a video on. Now, the color changing. Didn't I say I was going to do, oh yeah, I was going to show you one more thing too inside of KLWP. I was going to show you the animation. So, okay, since the triangle showing, this is our third group. So we have it set to fade in and fade out because I just kept copying and pasting my groups in. But you can have this do whatever you want. You can have it scroll. And let's see, is that going to scroll enough? Absolutely. Okay, I like that. And let's change our circle overlap group 2. Let's change its animation to scale in, I think. And we want to, or is it scale out? I think that's going to make it too big. What does scale out will do? Okay, no, that's what I want. I want it to scale out. And you'll see why. This can be a little bit weird to get used to depending on whether this thing's moving forward or backwards. But basically this saying, if GV tab is equal to 2, we want it to move forward. Otherwise, we want it to move back. So since our GV tab is not 2 right now, I think it's equal to 3, it's going to scale this thing back in. Now when I make the GV tab equal to 2, it's going to scale it out. It's going to move it forward. That's how you want to read this code here. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and save that. And now I got 3 different animations going on. So GV tab is currently, oh, this is not right. I didn't have this set up right because look, my GV tab is currently 3. So I need to fix that. Like I said, this can be a little bit of funkiness. GV tab's currently 3. I want this to be scale out. If you invert it, is that going to do what I want it to do? I think that is going to do it. It's going to scale out. Like I said, this is kind of weird. I still don't understand that 100% yet, but I know if it don't work one way, oftentimes you can do the invert and it will work. Not always, but it takes some tinkering. Let's see what we got here. All right, text global variable is currently 3. Oh, check this out. Look, text global variable is 3. The triangle is not showing. And this says the triangle showing when it's 0. We have to invert this as well. So let me show you that. I'm glad I'm showing you these things. These are mistakes that you can make, and you'll have to troubleshoot to fix them. So overlap group number 3. Remember we changed that animation to scroll, but it's going to scroll off the screen when the text global variable is 3. I want it to scroll on the screen. So change your ease to inverted. Now it should work, even though it's not showing it up here on the screen. It should be okay now. So check it out. Text global variables 3. I want to see this third group, which is a triangle. Let me cut it to 0. Now it's going to shoot it away. Here's our circle scaling in. Here's our circle scaling out. Here's our square fading in. Here's our square fading out. Notice I'm just going back and forth between like 1 and 0. Here's 2 and 0. Here's 3 and 0. And then more importantly too, we can still alternate between these. So I hope by me putting this down here, you can clearly see what value that global variable tab has, and it's doing exactly what we want this thing to do. I even do this when I'm testing things. I put a little piece of text down here just to know what my current value is, and I want to make sure I have showing, or I want to make sure the animation that I have is actually animating. So there you have it. Now, with these 3 things, like I said, this is a long video, but let's do some color changing on these. Alright, time for some color changing. I want the circle, square, and triangle to be different colors, and I want each color to change separately, and I want to be able to do this without having to come back into this editor. So a little bit of work to do. Step number 1, let's create the text global variables. And now I say variables because I want notice it says if you want to change the colors of multiple things separately, I want the triangle, the circle, and the square up here to be their own color separately. I need to create a text global variable for each one. So let's do that. Text global variable, and let's call it group 1 color. Easy way to remember that. Not a lot to type in when we go to do our coding. Another one, let's call it G2 color. Make sure you do a text. And G3 color. And I about pressed OK, but make sure you do a text. Alright, now I'm going to give these some values. I'm going to give it, I'm going to give it a value of 1. You don't have to match the numbers here. Here I can put a 3, but here I'm just not going to use any number higher than the number of colors that I want to add. I'm going to do a 2 here. Okay, so I'm just giving them some values. That way it's going to register and we can see some things in a few minutes. But nonetheless, now we're going to need to create global variables for your colors. Again, just put some numbers here. Just make sure these numbers aren't any bigger than the number that number of colors that you're going to have. I tell you what, we'll add 5 colors. So create global variables for your colors. Well, let's call these something easy. Let's call it color 1. Let's call it color 2. I'll come in here and change these colors in a second. Let's do a color 3. Let's do a color 4. Whoops, okay. And color 5. Alright, so color 1, make it gray. Color 2, light red. Do whatever colors you want. Color 3. Color 4. Let's do a light green. Color 5. What have I not done yet? Like a light yellow or something like that. Alright. So we got all these in here. Now, so we've created our global variables for our colors. Now we have to apply the code to what color we want to change. Well, the color that we want to change right now, since I'm seeing group 3, I'm going to go into my group 3 overlap group. I'm going to go to my triangle and I want to change its color. So under paint, I'm going to apply a formula. Now, I was just sitting here tinkering with this a moment ago. The way you do that, this is how it originally probably looks if you're doing this. So you click on that, you click on the calculator, and you apply a formula to it. Now I can't type in dollar symbols from my computer onto my cell phone, so I'm going to type them right here in Word, and I'm going to copy and paste them. Now we have to remember what we called our colors. So we got to return a color preference. So I'm going to come over here and type my code. If GV group 1 color is equal to 1, we want to return a global variable color of color 1. I need to close that there and there. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of things, because sometimes this global or group 1 color might not be 1. So what about this 2? Let me copy and paste this. Easy way to remember this. Create text global variables that are easy to remember. If group 1 color is equal to 2, let's return that C2 color that we created for a global variable. If group 1 color is equal to 3, let's return the color for C3. You got to use these GVs for global variable. If group 1 color is equal to 4, return a 4. Color C4. How many colors did we do? 5. So there's a 5. Now this is actually something that I'm going to use in all of them, except I'm going to change the G1Cs, my group 1 color. I'm going to change it to G2C for group 2 color, and then I'm going to do my group 3 color. Now what group am I in actually? I about messed up, didn't I? Because I'm in group 3, so I need to go ahead and change these to group 3 color. So basically it's going to say this. If the global variable that we call G3C, it's going to have values of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, messing up on my coding, but whichever number that text global variable is equal to, it's going to return the global variable color preference that we picked for color 1, color 2, color 3, color 4, color 5. Now we still haven't set how we're going to change these. That's going to come when we create a button, but nonetheless this is ready to roll. So let's paste this in here. Alright, so we do see a color preference, and it depends on what our group 3 color was set to. Alright, so whatever. Apparently, look, let me show you. I mean, let's learn how to read this stuff. Okay, we did select a light red for one of our colors, is C2. So more than likely, how are we getting the C2? How are we getting this red color? It must mean our global variable, our text global variable for G3C, it must be 2. Well, let's look. G3C, it is set to 2, so it's going to return that C2 value. Now we want to apply this to our other groups. Our group 1, which was a square, our group 2, which was a circle, but we want to change these G3Cs to G2Cs for group 2 and G1Cs for group 1. So we're going to get those two right there. And I tell you what, to make this a little bit easier to follow, I'm going to get away from my triangle by changing my global variable tab. Let's go back to the square. That was the GV tab 1 from earlier. So here's our square. So let's change these colors now. So our square, go to paint, let's apply the formula, and I think I don't want to paste it yet. I want to go ahead and, it's easier to operate on the keyboard. So since I'm in group 1, alright, copy and paste this. So since I'm in group 1, we got a color preference coming back. So all this other stuff's going to be the same. If the text global variable for group 1 color is 1, it's going to return color 1. If it's equal to 2, it's going to return to color 2, and so forth. Let's check this. So what color is it? It's the gray. Remember, we did pick a gray. Let's go back and look. Let's make sure we understand how these global variables are working. So we're talking about group 1, and we got a gray. What color is gray? Gray is color 1. So therefore, color 1 is gray. So how are we getting this gray color? If the text global variable group 1 color is equal to 1, then we want to return that gray color right here. Well, let's look. Group 1 color is set to 1, so it's going to return that one. If this was set to 2, actually I can change this on the fly. Let me change this. Well, heck, let's change it to 5. If group 1 color is equal to 5, we should return the color 5. Check it out. Now we have the yellow, because if group 1 color is equal to 5, we should return color 5, which is that yellow. That's how this stuff's working. And now, whoops, let me go back. Let's change our global variable tab to 2, because we have not applied this coding to 2 yet. So here's our circle. We want to do the same thing again. Shape circle, paint. Let's apply the code. And now I'm just going to change my G1Cs, just like I did my G3Cs and stuff. I'm going to change them to 2s. But everything else can remain the same. Pasting that in there. And now we got the blue. So which one was blue? Blue was C3. So how are we getting C3 out of this formula? So that means our text global variable for group 2 color, it must be equal to 3, because we're returning the global variable color 3. We're getting color 3 if our GV global variable group 2 color. Well, let's look at group 2 color. Group 2 color is set to 3, so if it's equal to 3, it's going to return that global variable C3, which is that color preference right there. So there you have it. Now, we're not done yet, because we want to be able to change these. Suppose I don't want, so here's what group, this is group 2. Let me change group 2, let me change its value to say 1. So if group 2 color is 1, I should return the color of that we called C1. So I'm going to change it to 1. So group 2 color is 1, so it should return the global variable C1. Well, C1 is that gray, and as you can see, it is gray. But now we want to be able to change these things. Now you can put these next buttons I'm about to create. We're creating some button and triggers to change the colors and apply the touch. You can put the buttons inside of the shape itself, or you can put the buttons down here. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to put them outside of it, just for the heck of it. So text. Watch this. Here's what I'm going to do. Text. I'm going to say group 1 color. Watch this. Group 1 color is, let's apply, let's go ahead and see what the group 1 color is. So that should be global variable group 1 color. Is this going to be right? I think that is. Ta-da! Group 1 color is 5. Perfect. Let's put this in the center. Maybe I need to lower it some. And I'm gonna scoot it on over. Should have put like left center. It'll be all right. And let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Now let's apply touch to this one, because remember we're changing each color separately. So I'm actually, okay, this is going to change too. This is going to show us what group 1 color is. I'm guessing group 1 color is 5. I'm guessing was color 5? Global variable group 1 color, was it 5? I don't remember. Let's look and see. Group 1 color is 5, and if it's 5, oh, that's okay. I was confusing myself. I was like, why am I returning a gray color? But this isn't group 1 showing here. Group 1's yellow, but nonetheless, I don't want to leave this. All right, so let's apply the touch. So under touch, we want to toggle global switch. Now we have multiples that we want. Well, since I'm talking about group 1, I'm going to do group 1. Now, coding. So text. And I'm going to copy and paste this. So if group 1, global variable, group 1 color is not equal to, what was the highest color that we had? If it's not equal to 5, because we had 5 colors, then we want to take, get this out of the way. So if the group 1 color, if that value of that text global variable is not equal to 5, then we want to take whatever number it is. So I want to do variable group 1 color, and we want to add 1 to it. Otherwise, we want to set it to 1. Now let me explain what this means. Basically what this is going to do, it's going to take whatever number that I have that text global variable. And that's why, again, I like using numbers for my text global variable. So if it's not equal to 5, and you could say less than 5. Let's do less than 5. You could do not equal or less. But if it's less than 5, you want to take whatever value it is and add 1 to it. For example, if it was 4, it's going to add 1 to it. If it was 2, it's going to add 1 to it, because all those numbers are less than 5. But when it becomes something that's not less than 5, such as 5, or if somehow or another you manage to get a 100 for this value, it's going to return it back to 1. This right here is going to cycle the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because this is going to reset to 1 whenever we get a global variable that's not, or that is less than 5. It's going to take it and add 1 to it up until we get to 5, and when we finally get to 5, it's going to go back down to 1. And you're going to see that when we actually apply this in a minute. So let's paste it, and we should be good with that. Alright, that's that one. Let's copy and paste this. Copy, paste. Basically, I'm copying that same thing again. I'm going to move the position down a little bit, because I'm going to talk about group 2. So let me change the text, the group 2 color. Of course, you probably want to make these buttons, but the group 2 color is going to be whatever value the KWGT is. So group 2 color is going to return, I guess the color is 1. Yeah, because 1 was the gray. Remember that? I was getting a little confused a minute ago. So I've changed that so I can easily read it, and now I want to change my touch. And now, be careful here. Toggle global switch. We want to toggle the group 2 color, so I changed that. And then I'm going to change this to group 2 color, and I want to take group 2 color and add 1 to it. Same thing. Since I got 5 colors, this is going to alternate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to see that. Give me 1 second. Alright, and last but not least, let's copy it down one more time. So I'm creating, did I just get something out of order? No, I don't think I did. Alright, position, let's slide this down. So this will be group 3 color. Group 3 color is going to be whatever the global variable G3C is. This is just for me to show you how things are changing. But again, we do want to apply the touch to this. This is going to be these are my buttons. I'm creating my buttons, but they're going to be text. But you could put shapes like we did down here. Make sure you change that global variable, the switch to G3 since I'm talking about the group 3 color. And then the text, same formula except I want group 3 color. If it's less than 5, I want to take that group 3 color and add 1 to it. And if it's not less than 5, such as 5, 6, 7, or 8, should we go that high, which we won't in this case, we want to return it down to 1. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but how many ever colors you have, you want to put that number there, and you should be good. Like if you had 10 colors, it'd be less than 10, but everything else would remain the same. But I think finally, everything's good to go. Let's test it. All right, saving it and going back to the home screen. So we still got all this stuff going on. You know, so text global variable is 3 because I got the third group showing. Text global variable is 2. I got the second group showing. Text global variable is 1, and this is the text global variable tab, GV tab. I should have wrote GV tab, but nonetheless, okay, we got group 1 coming, or group 1 showing. Group 1 color is currently 5. I'm guessing 5 was yellow. Let's touch it. All right, now the group color is 1. That was gray. Group 1 color is 2. It's red. Group 1 color is 3. It's blue. Group 1 color is 4. Notice this thing's going 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to hit 5. But now, remember I said if that number's less than 5, which it's not now, it's going to reset it back to 1. So watch this. This 5's going to go to 1, and we go back to gray. So just like that, we're changing our colors on the fly. And now you might say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm changing these. Notice it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, we can't see these because we don't have group 2 showing. Now I have group 2 showing, so you can still change these colors. So 2 is red. Now I can change my group 3 colors. I don't see them until I activate my text global variable tab down here to change my colors. But as you can see, they are changing. So, you know, I got 3 different colors, but suppose I want all of them to be yellow. That means I need to set all of these numbers to 4. There we go. And these are changing based on the touch back here. So now everything should be yellow or whatever that is. Light colored green. I can't. I'm colorblind, I guess sometimes. I don't know. It was a green. So now if I want all of them gray, if I set everything to 1, my global variable C1 was gray. So now all the colors will be gray or whatever color that you decided to use. Well, there you have it. I know this was lengthy. Grab a bag of popcorn and a soda to watch this thing, but nonetheless, I hope you can see now how you can change almost anything. And I like being able to do this without having to go back into, you know, the KLWP editor and doing this stuff. But again, here, multiple text global variables. One text global, 2 text globals, 3 text globals, and then we had the fourth text global, which was the first one we actually did. Right here, GV tab. So let's recap. GV tab is what's going to bring the shapes or whatever information in and out. Then our G1C group 1 color is going to change the color of our square that we have showing up. Group 2 color is going to change the color of our circle here. And then group 3 color is going to change that triangle whenever or whatever color it may be. And we picked 5 colors. That's why we did all this coding over here for C5s. And less than 5, remember, if you pick more colors, you could go as high as you want, as far as I know. But there you have it. That's 2 big uses of the text global variable. And that is it for this long video. Hope it helped.